Samantha Gray was the kind of girl who stayed in her lane. Quiet, polite, always helping at the library, and barely ever stepping outside her comfort zone. At just 21, she was still living in her tiny shared apartment with her cousin in Brooklyn, juggling college, a part-time job, and a future she hadn't quite figured out. She had never been on a real date, never kissed anyone for real, and certainly never even imagined getting involved with someone like him. Alexander Kane was a walking headline. Billionaire by 29, CEO of one of the biggest real estate empires in New York, and a man with a reputation that came with its own warning label. Women chased him, men envied him, and tabloids lived off his scandal-stuffed lifestyle. He didn't know Samantha, at least not at first. It all started on a rainy Thursday. Samantha had picked up a temp job as a server for a high-end gala downtown. She didn't want to be there. She hated being around the rich, the fake smiles, the expensive perfumes that made her sneeze, and the awkward glances when they realized she didn't quite belong. But money was money, and rent was late. So there she was in black heels that hurt her toes, holding a tray of champagne she couldn't even afford to smell. And then he walked in. Tall, sleek suit, dark eyes that scanned the room like he owned. Say it because he probably did. Alexander Kane. She recognized him from magazine covers her roommate used to obsess over. She didn't expect him to even notice her, but he did. He looked her dead in the eyes, and for a second the world slowed down. It should have ended there. A passing glance. But when she accidentally spilled a glass of champagne on his $1 million suit, everything changed. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered, panic all over her face. He looked down, then back at her, amused. "It's just a suit," he said, lips curling into a smirk. "But I think you owe me a conversation." And that was it. Somehow that moment turned into an awkward, nervous exchange. Then a private table, then a business card, then a text the next day. Samantha didn't know what she was doing. She didn't even understand why someone like him would want to talk to someone like her. But he kept texting, kept asking how her day was, kept teasing her about her shy answers and her pure heart. And after 2 weeks, he invited her out. "Just dinner," he promised. She said yes. It wasn't like the movies. He didn't try anything that night, just talked, asked her about books, about her dreams. And for a moment, Samantha felt like she wasn't invisible anymore, like someone actually saw her, not her looks, not her clothes, but her. They kept meeting, secretly, quietly. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't even understand how it kept happening. She had no experience. And Alexander, he had women begging to be with him, but somehow he kept coming back to her, calling her refreshing, honest, and his escape. It was a night in his penthouse, the first time she ever went to his place, that things went further than she ever intended. Samantha had never been with anyone, but under the dim lights, with his warm hands on hers, the soft music in the background, and his voice telling her she was safe. Something happened. She didn't drink, but maybe it was the nerves. Maybe it was the way he made her feel like she wasn't some nobody. She didn't even know how things got out of control. She only remembered waking up the next morning, wrapped, in silk sheets, heart pounding, head spinning. He was already dressed, sipping his coffee like it was just another morning. She tried to play it cool, act like she wasn't freaking out inside. He smiled at her, leaned down, kissed her forehead, and said, "You're special, Sam." And then, that was it. Days passed, then weeks. He stopped replying as fast. Calls became shorter, until suddenly he ghosted. She was left with silence, and a strange feeling that wouldn't go away. Until one morning, 3 weeks later, Samantha stared at the bathroom mirror, clutching a pregnancy test with trembling hands. 2 red lines. Positive. Her knees buckled. She had never even had a boyfriend. Now she was pregnant, for a billionaire who had already disappeared. Samantha didn't leave the bathroom for over an hour. She sat on the cold tile floor, the pregnancy test still in her hand, like it might change if she stared at it long enough. But it didn't. It stayed the same. 2 red lines, bold and cruel, staring back at her like they were laughing. Her stomach turned. She wasn't even sure if it was from the pregnancy or the panic crawling all over her skin. She thought about taking another test, just to be sure. Then she remembered. It was her third one already. All three said the same thing. Pregnant. A virgin girl. Until one night with a man who hadn't even checked in since. She dragged herself up and tried to breathe. Her cousin, Tara, was still asleep on the other side of the thin apartment wall. Samantha didn't want her to know, not yet. Not when she hadn't even wrapped her own head around it. She spent the whole day floating. At school, her professor's voice sounded like static. At work, she kept dropping things and zoning out. Every minute was like holding her breath underwater. And then there was the constant temptation. To text him, to tell Alexander. To scream or cry or demand to know why he had vanished, like she was just a disposable night of entertainment. By midnight, she gave in. She sat on her tiny bed, heart pounding, phone in hand, fingers shaking. Samantha. Hey, can we talk? It's important. Nothing. She stared at the screen for 10 minutes. No reply, no read receipt. She tried again. Samantha. Please, I need 5 minutes of your time, that's all. Still nothing. She threw the phone on the bed and buried her face in her hands. He wasn't coming back. He wasn't going to answer. The same man who once called her his piece had gone completely silent the moment things got real. What did she expect? From a billionaire who probably had women lining up for him. Still, this wasn't something she could just ignore. The next morning she went to the nearest clinic. She had to know how far along she was. The nurse was kind, but the look in her eyes said everything. Samantha wasn't imagining it. She was really pregnant. 5 weeks. Are you okay? The nurse asked gently. Samantha blinked away tears. No, she whispered. Not even a little. By the time she stepped outside, the sun was too bright, the world too loud, and the shame clung to her like sweat. She hadn't even told a soul, but she felt judged by every stranger who looked at her. Back at home, she avoided Tara, said she had a stomach bug, locked herself in and Googled things she never thought she'd be typing. How to raise a baby alone. What happens if the father is a billionaire? Can someone deny a pregnancy without proof? Then, like a slap to the face, something hit her. DNA test. She didn't want Alexander's money, but she sure as hell wasn't going to let him walk away from this like it never happened. She dug through her drawer and pulled out his old business card. The one he gave her the first night. Gold lettering, cold and powerful. Kane Enterprises, she called the number. Receptionist answered. Kane Enterprises, how may I direct your call? Samantha swallowed hard. Hi. I need to speak to Mr. Alexander Kane. It's urgent, personal. A pause, then, Mr. Kane isn't available. Can I take a message? She bit her lip. Tell him it's Samantha Gray. He knows me. Just tell him I'm pregnant. Silence. Awkward, cold silence. I'll pass along the message, the woman finally said. Samantha hung up, heart racing, throat dry. 3 hours later, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Do not contact me again, that was it. No name, no denial, no emotion. Just one message. And it shattered her completely. Samantha sat there for a long time, tears slipping down her face in silence. Her heart was broken, but something deeper had snapped inside her. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about her child. He didn't want to be involved. Fine. But he had no idea what was coming next. Samantha didn't cry that night, not like before. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, eyes wide open. Her tears had dried up somewhere between the crushing text message and the silence that followed. The only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the fan spinning above her, and even that felt like it was mocking her. Do not contact me again. That message played over and over in her mind like a broken record. She read it 100 times, hoping the words would somehow change, that maybe she'd misread it. But no, that was Alexander Kane's voice, sharp and cold, coming through 4 little words. The same man who once told her she was the most honest soul he'd ever met. The same man who held her like she was fragile and precious. Now he wanted nothing to do with her. And the baby growing inside her. He didn't even ask. She felt sick. Not just morning sickness, the kind that twisted deep in her gut and made her want to scream into the pillow until her voice gave out. But she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She got up. That night, Samantha opened her laptop and began typing a letter. Not a love letter, not a begging message. It was a record of every date, every message, every photo they had together. The way he looked at her, the way he promised to keep things private. She copied everything, text logs, screenshots, photos from that night in the penthouse. She even found the receipt from the fancy restaurant he'd taken her to. It was all digital, all real. And she saved it in a folder labeled, "For my child." Because if one day that child asked, "Did he ever love you?" She wanted proof. She still hadn't told Tara. But it was getting harder to hide. Her cousin noticed the way she barely ate, the way she ran to the bathroom in the mornings, the way her eyes had lost their light. It wasn't long before Tara cornered her. "You're not okay," she said, arms crossed, eyes serious. "What's going on, Sam?" Samantha hesitated. She tried to lie, but her voice cracked when she opened her mouth. "I'm pregnant." Tara's face went pale. "What? I didn't mean to. It just happened." "With who?" Samantha swallowed. "Alexander Kane." Silence. Then laughter, but not the good kind, the bitter kind. "Wait, the Alexander Kane, the billionaire." Samantha nodded. Tara stared at her, blinking. "Are you out of your damn mind? How? When? What? I didn't plan any of this," Samantha snapped. "It was just one night. He was kind. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought he cared." Tara sat down beside her, quieter now. "And now? He told me to never contact him again." Tara closed her eyes and muttered a curse under her breath. Then she looked at her. Cousin really looked at her. "We need to be smart." Samantha was surprised. "We?" "Yeah, we, Sam. You think I'm going to let you go through this alone?" "Hell no." That was the first time Samantha felt something close to relief. They started planning, not revenge, not yet, but survival. Tara helped her book a meeting with a family lawyer, an old friend from college who worked pro bono for women in difficult situations. They didn't tell him everything at first, just enough to get his attention. He listened quietly, then leaned back and said, "Do you have proof he's the father?" Samantha nodded and pulled out the folder. From her bag, printed screenshots, messages, and everything in between. The lawyer read in silence. "If this goes public," he said slowly, "it'll be a storm. Kane is untouchable to most people, but not to the truth." Samantha clenched her fists. "I don't want money. I want him to take responsibility." The lawyer nodded. "We can file for paternity. It'll force him to respond." "But what if he denies it?" she asked. He looked her in the eye. "Then we let the court drag him in. And if he refuses a DNA test, that speaks louder than any denial." Samantha felt something shift inside her, a quiet strength she didn't know she had. For weeks, he ignored her, disposed of her like she was a mistake. But now he'd have to face her. The legal notice was delivered straight to Kane Enterprises on a Monday morning, wrapped in silence and law firm letterhead. Samantha didn't expect it to reach him directly. Men like Alexander had layers of assistants and lawyers between them and the real world, but it didn't matter. The message would land loud and clear. Paternity claim, court-mandated DNA testing, plaintiff Samantha Gray. By Wednesday, his legal team responded, cold, formal, and filled with legal jargon meant to intimidate her. Mr. Kane denies all allegations. He reserves the right to contest all claims. No acknowledgement of relationship or responsibility is being made at this time. But that was exactly what Samantha expected. Her lawyer, Martin Roswell, wasn't fazed. "They're stalling," he told her. "They think you'll back down." "I won't." "Good," he said with a half-smile. "Then we go public." Samantha blinked. "Public?" Martin leaned forward. "There are two ways we do this. Quietly in court, with all the power of his legal army trying to drown you in paperwork. Or what we tell the world, the media, the blogs, the people." Samantha hesitated. "You think they'll believe me?" Martin didn't answer at first. He pulled out the photos, the text messages, the time-stamped call logs. They don't need to believe your story right away. They just need to ask questions, and Kane, he hates questions. Samantha stared down at the growing bump in her stomach. It wasn't even showing yet, but she felt it. A life. A tiny, silent witness to everything unraveling around her. "Let's make him answer," she whispered. By the end of the week, an anonymous leak hit the internet. Exclusive. Billionaire Alexander Kane accused of abandoning pregnant student after secret affair. The article didn't show her name, just enough detail to stir the flames. A young college girl, a secret relationship, a refusal to acknowledge paternity. There were screenshots, blurred-out photos, redacted text messages, all real, all damning. It blew up in less than 24 hours. Samantha watched it all unfold from her apartment, her phone buzzing non-stop, her email flooding with requests, her stomach twisting with nerves. Some people defended her. Others called her a liar, a gold digger, a fraud. But the truth had already cracked the surface. By Monday morning, Alexander Kane was trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons, and for the first time since this all began, he showed up. Not in person, but in the form of his lawyer, in court. Samantha sat in the waiting room, hands resting over her stomach, heart racing. She didn't dress fancy, just a simple sweater and jeans. She didn't need to pretend to be anything she wasn't. She was scared, but she wasn't hiding anymore. The door opened, and a tall man in a tailored suit walked in, carrying a file thicker than a brick. He looked straight at her, nodded stiffly, and said, "Miss Gray, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Kane. He's prepared to comply with court-ordered DNA testing." Samantha raised her eyebrows. "So he's not denying it anymore?" The lawyer's expression didn't change. "He is denying the relationship, but he is willing to cooperate." Her lawyer leaned in. "Why the sudden change of heart?" The man looked tired. "The media, the shareholders, his board of directors." "Ah, so it wasn't conscience, it was damage control. That hurt more than it should have." The testing was scheduled. Samantha didn't see Alexander. He didn't call, didn't text. He kept himself tucked away in his high-rise life while she walked into a sterile lab, gave her sample, and walked out alone. Waiting for results was torture. 2 weeks passed, and then the phone call came. Martin sounded grim. "We got the results." She closed her eyes. "And?" "You were right. He's the father. No question." Samantha sat down slowly. It wasn't relief. Not yet. Because now, the real battle would begin. The official paternity report sat on the table like a bomb waiting to go off. Samantha stared at the paper. Printed in cold, clinical language were the words that confirmed everything she already knew in her heart. 99% probability. Alexander Kane is the biological father. Martin didn't say anything for a long time. He just watched her, giving her space to breathe, to process. But Samantha wasn't shocked. She wasn't even angry in that moment. She was still. Like everything had gone quiet after a long, violent storm. "He knows?" she asked finally. Martin nodded. "His team got the results the same time we did. And? They sent a response this morning." He handed her another paper. It was from Alexander's legal team, more formal talk. But at the bottom, in plain terms, they're offering a settlement. Samantha scanned it. $5 million, non-disclosure agreement, full custody granted to Samantha Gray. No contact, no press, complete silence. She almost laughed. "He wants to pay to disappear," Martin nodded. "That's what it looks like." Samantha's hands tightened around the paper. "They think this is about money." Martin leaned back in his chair. "That's how people like him think. They throw cash at problems until they go away." "But I'm not a problem," she said quietly. "And this baby isn't either." "No," Martin said. "You're both his consequences." She didn't respond right away. Her heart thudded in her chest, and the old ache came crawling back. For a second, she saw his face again, those warm eyes that told her she was special. The soft smile he used when he teased her, the gentle way he held her the first time, all fake. A billionaire pretending to care about a girl he never planned to remember. Samantha folded the offer in half and pushed it back toward Martin. Tell them no. His eyes flickered. You sure? She nodded. Let him show his face in court. Let him tell a judge, out loud, that he wants nothing to do with his own child. I want that on record. Martin smiled, proud this time. Then we'll prepare for trial. The next few weeks were a blur of interviews, legal documents, appointments, and morning sickness. The media had slowed down, but the story still lingered in the public. People had opinions. Strangers sent her support, others sent hate. She avoided it all. The only thing that mattered now was protecting her baby. But then, something unexpected happened. Late one night, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but her instincts told her to. She picked up. Hello? Silence. At first. Then a deep, familiar voice. Sam. Her heart stopped. Alexander. She didn't say anything. I shouldn't have called, but I didn't know what else to do. You have lawyers for that, she said, her voice flat. He sighed. They're not people, they just fix messes. Oh, she said bitterly. So that's what we are, a mess. A mess. No, he said quickly, I didn't mean it like that. There was a pause, a long one. Then he said, is it really mine? That question hit her like a slap. Her jaw tightened. The court says yes. But if you still need to ask me, that maybe you should hang up. More silence. I didn't think this would happen, he said quietly. You were different. I didn't want to hurt you. Then why did you? I panicked. I've seen what happens when people come after me. Women, scandals, paternity scams. My board. My lawyers. They told me to ignore it. Let it die. And you listened to them, she snapped, because it was easier than listening to me. I made a mistake, he said. No, Alexander, she said, voice rising. You made a choice. He was quiet again. She could hear his breath, unsteady, hesitant, maybe even guilty. I want to meet, he said. Samantha's heart stuttered. Why? I need to see you. Talk. Face to face. Please. She hesitated. Every part of her screamed not to trust him, not to let him walk back in just because the truth finally caught up with him. But something deep inside whispered, he's the father. And sooner or later your child will ask about him. So she answered slowly, 1 hour, 1 coffee shop, public, no lawyers. Tomorrow? He asked. Tomorrow, she said, and she hung up. For the first time in months, Alexander Kane would have to sit across from the girl he abandoned. And this time she wasn't scared. The morning of the meeting, Samantha barely slept. She tossed and turned all night, her mind replaying every second of that phone call. His voice, the hesitation, the guilt, the nerve to ask if the child was his. Her stomach twisted, not just from the baby, but from the flood of emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel in weeks. Anger, hurt, and something else she didn't want to name. Tara insisted on coming with her, at least to the cafe. I'll sit at a distance, she said, but if he says anything stupid, I swear to God. Samantha gave a half laugh. I can handle him. I know you can, Tara said, rubbing her shoulder. But he doesn't. The cafe was in Midtown, neutral ground. Samantha chose it because it was public, quiet, and impossible to make a scene in. She wore a simple beige dress, no makeup, hair pulled back, no performance, no pretending. At 10:02 a.m., he walked in, Alexander Kane. He looked different. Still in a crisp navy suit, still towering and confident, but there was something dimmed about him. His eyes scanned the cafe nervously until they landed on her, and then he froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he walked over slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear. Samantha. She nodded. Sit. He did, awkwardly, like he didn't know what to do with his hands. Up close, she could see it. The stress, the lack of sleep, maybe even guilt. But she didn't let that soften her. You got the test, she said. I did. And now? He sighed, looking down. It's real. I know that. Good. Because I didn't need a test to know it. I lived it, alone. I know, he said quietly. Do you? She snapped. Do you have any idea what it's like waking up every day with your body changing, your whole future shifting, while the father of your child pretends you don't exist? He didn't look up. I was afraid. Of what? Me? Of everything. Of being trapped. Of this destroying my reputation. I've worked my whole life to build something powerful. I didn't grow up with second chances. And I did? She said, voice shaking. You think I asked for this? That I planned it? No, he whispered. I don't think that. I think I'm a coward who ran instead of staying and dealing with it like a man. She blinked. That honesty, and she wasn't expecting. I've done a lot of selfish things, he said. But this might be the worst. I know I don't deserve anything from you, Samantha, but I want to be part of the child's life. She stared at him. No NDAs, no silencing me. No lawyers throwing money at me. I fired the ones who sent that offer. That surprised her. He looked up at her finally, his eyes softer than she remembered. I'm not here to buy my way out. I'm here because I have to live with what I did. And I don't want this baby growing up thinking their father was a ghost. Samantha's throat tightened. She didn't want to cry, but the words cracked something open. And if I say no, she asked, then I'll still support you from wherever I'm allowed to. Financially, legally, quietly. I won't fight you, but I'll be here, always. For a long time she said nothing. The anger still burned in her chest, but it wasn't the same kind anymore. It wasn't white-hot fury. It was the ache of something broken that might, maybe, start to heal. I don't trust you, she said flatly. I know. You left me, you humiliated me, you treated me like a one-night accident. He nodded. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I was wrong. Samantha looked at him for a long time. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded sonogram photo. She slid it across the table. That's your child. Alexander picked it up like it was made of glass. His hands trembled. His eyes watered. God, he whispered. That's real. It always was. They sat in silence. And for the first time, maybe something had shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a beginning. The days that followed were strange. Not peaceful. Not dramatic. Just unfamiliar. Samantha still woke up with the weight of everything on her shoulders. The baby. The media storm that had finally started to calm down. The aching trust she didn't know how to rebuild. But now, there was one more thing in the mix. Alexander. He didn't force his way back in. He didn't demand forgiveness. He showed up, quietly, consistently, and carefully. He started small, sending groceries to her apartment, texting to check in on doctor appointments, asking if she needed a ride or just if she was okay. She ignored the first few, but eventually she answered. Just one or two words, nothing warm, nothing forgiving, but he took what she gave, and for once, he didn't try to control the narrative. When she had her 20-week scan, he waited outside, the clinic, not inside, not hovering. He texted her, I'm outside if you want me there. If not, I'll wait in the car. That simple message did something to her. She let him in. They didn't talk much during the scan, but when the technician turned the monitor and the heartbeat echoed through the room, she caught him wiping. Away a tear he tried to hide. He didn't say anything dramatic, didn't make some over-the-top promise. He just whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on them." It was the first time she looked at him and saw not the billionaire, not the cold-hearted CEO, but just a man. A scared, flawed man trying to fix the wreckage he left behind. That night they had coffee again, not a date, just a conversation. She asked about his childhood, his parents, his rise to success. He told her things he'd never said in interviews, the cold boarding schools, the pressure to be perfect, the way his father told him love was a weakness. She didn't sympathize, but she understood. You don't get to hide behind your trauma forever, she said. You hurt people. I know, he replied. She paused. And you hurt me. He nodded. I've never regretted something, So much in my life. That night she didn't invite him up. He didn't ask. They went their separate ways. But for the first time, Samantha felt like maybe, just maybe, he was capable of change. Still, things weren't perfect. There were reporters still digging, anonymous messages still coming through her email, social media still swirling with opinions. Some called her brave, others called her a liar who trapped a billionaire. People always had something to say. But she didn't care anymore, because now her priority was the tiny heartbeat inside her, and protecting that came first, always. Then, one afternoon, something shifted again. Alexander called. His voice was calm, but there was a crack in it. "My mother wants to meet you." Samantha blinked. "Your mother?" "She saw the news. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but she reached out after everything. She wants to meet the mother of her grandchild." Samantha wasn't sure what to feel. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said honestly. "I understand I won't push." But the next day she found herself saying yes. Curiosity? Closure? Maybe both. They met in a private lounge downtown, fancy, quiet, and far from the eye, noise of gossip columns. Alexander's mother, Clarissa Kane, was everything Samantha expected, elegant, poised, and sharp-eyed. But her first words surprised her. "I didn't raise my son to treat women like that," she said, skipping pleasantries. "But I also didn't teach him how to love. That's my failure, too." Samantha blinked. Clarissa leaned in. "I know you don't trust him, you shouldn't, not yet. But I hope you'll give him the chance to become a father, a real one." She paused. "And if you ever feel unsafe, unprotected, or disrespected again, call me." That shocked her, more than anything. "I don't need your money or protection," Samantha said, chin raised. Clarissa smiled. "I didn't think you did, but strength recognizes strength." When she left that meeting, Samantha didn't feel overwhelmed. She felt seen by a woman who had lived through her own war and knew what it meant to survive one. The final weeks of Samantha's pregnancy came faster than she expected. Her body ached in ways she never thought possible. Sleep was a struggle. Her feet were swollen. Her emotions swung like a pendulum between calm and chaos. But through it all, there was a strange sense of focus, a quiet fire in her chest that kept her moving forward. She wasn't the girl who cried in a bathroom anymore. She was going to be a mother. Alexander, to her surprise, didn't fade away. He came to parenting classes, sat on the floor awkwardly, holding fake baby dolls and asking too many questions. He helped set up a crib in her tiny apartment, even though he quietly offered to move her somewhere safer and bigger. She refused. He didn't argue. He learned how to make her tea when she couldn't keep food down. He drove her to the clinic when her back gave out one night, and when she snapped at him from the hormonal exhaustion, he didn't get defensive. He just let her feel. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes she caught him drifting, lost in business calls or boardroom problems. He wasn't used to slowing down. Toe showing up, but every time he faltered he returned, and that's what mattered. Then came the night. It was raining, of course it was, and Samantha was trying to reach her phone, bent over with a contraction so sharp it took her breath away. Tara panicked. Alexander was across the city in a meeting when the call came. "She's in labor," Tara told him. He didn't hesitate. He left the meeting mid-sentence, got in his car, and broke every traffic law getting to the hospital. By the time he arrived, Samantha was already in the delivery room, drenched in sweat, teeth clenched, pain radiating through her body. She didn't even realize he was beside her until his hand found hers. "I'm here," he whispered. She didn't scream at him. She didn't say anything. She just gripped his hand like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. It was hours of agony, tears, blood, screams, fear, and then silence, followed by the softest, most beautiful sound she had ever heard, a baby's cry. Their baby's cry. The nurse placed the tiny bundle in her arms. Samantha looked down at the squirming, pink-skinned life she had carried for 9 long, painful, heartbreaking months, and felt everything crash down on her. Joy, relief, love, and then she looked at Alexander. He was crying, truly crying. Not the businessman, not the billionaire, just a man who had nearly lost everything before he even knew what it was worth. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She?" Samantha laughed through her tears. "They didn't tell me. She's ours." For the first time, Samantha didn't feel alone. They named her Lena, after Samantha's mother. The hospital room was quiet after that, just soft coos and tired breaths. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Alexander sat beside Samantha, holding Lena carefully in his arms. The city lights glowed through the window. The storm had passed. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted softly. Samantha looked at him. "Neither do I," she said. "But we'll learn." He looked up at her then, not like she was something fragile or temporary, but like she was the anchor that had pulled him out of the worst part of himself. "I'm sorry for everything," he said. "I know," she whispered. She didn't forgive him fully. Not yet. That kind of forgiveness takes time. But for the first time since this began, she believed he meant it. And for now, that was enough.